Welcome to the 2026 Market Outlook, specially prepared by 3Pro TV. As we look forward to 2026, here are the questions remained. Is the market ready for this next leap, or are we facing an overheated bubble? To find out the answer, we've invited one of Wall Street's most influential voices. Please welcome Dan Ives, Global Head of Tech Research at Wedbush Securities and Chairman at Eightco Holdings. Nice to meet you,
Great to
Dan.
be here. Great to be here
Welcome
as
back.
always.
I have to tell you, you have a huge fan base here in Korea. Our viewers have been eagerly waiting for your turn. Your strong conviction in the AI revolution during your last visit left a deep impression on all of us. So today, we'll talk about if that conviction holds strong for 2026 as well. So to verify this AI revolution, we first need to look at the macro issues since AI is sensitive to Fed's rate cut as well. Everyone saw the rate cut coming, but here's the puzzle. Some are calling it a hawkish cut because the Fed didn't sound very relaxed. I'm curious about your take. And
Hmm.
despite these mixed signals, why did the market initially react with such enthusiasm?
At the end of the day, Powell's a lame duck. He could say what he wants. Hassett's gonna take over,
Mhm.
and Hassett's a dove. So 100 bips is gonna be factored in over the next 6 to 7 months. And I think that's the reality. You could have dissenters all day long. But the
Uh-huh.
reality is that with Hassett coming in, there's a view, hawkish cut, whatever you want to call it. The hands are forced right now. They're going to have to go in a significant cut cycle.
Mm. So going back to Fed's initial meeting, the real drama was inside the room. So we saw a historic split. 3 out of 12 members voted against it. Even Austin Goolsbee, typically a dove, argued for a freeze, which was a big surprise to the market. What does this internal conflict tell us?
Look, you could argue with tariffs and some of the inflation numbers, especially the government shutdown. You didn't really have that information. So maybe, it caused some sort of, for some asking for a pause. But look, the reality is like market even wants more aggressive cuts.
Ah, yeah.
And then you saw the one for the 50 bips, in terms of the Trump appointees. So look, I just think it comes down to like you're gonna have dissenters, but you are on what's gonna be an aggressive cut path over the next year.
Hmm. I also noticed that Fed decided to buy back short-term treasury bills. So, seeing from a strategic standpoint, what does this move mean?
You essentially went from QT tightening to QE easing. It's bullish because when you look at the market, like, look, the economy, obviously we'll talk about AI revolution, everything happening there, but other parts of the economy, it's bumpy, right? We see a job, in terms of some of the employment numbers that are just very, very wobbly. You need cuts, and I think the Fed is viewing this as a time to sort of ease.
President Trump is already vocal, saying the Fed should have been more aggressive,
Mm.
like the market wanted. Considering that Chair Powell's term ends next year, does this create the perfect macro environment for the AI rally to continue? Or could an overheated economy trigger a backlash that hurts the tech stocks?
Yeah, I kind of view the former. I think this sets up for just bullishness into next year because it's not just about AI revolution. It's about you're gonna have a cutting cycle. You're gonna have a dove as Fed chair.
Mhm.
And I think that's all very, very positive for a risk on trade playing out in 2026. And of course, it all starts with AI revolution. Like the demand, look, even like names like Oracle that have sold off on their earnings,
Yeah.
you look at the core backlog, RPO, it's off the charts. So I think it's very easy. Me and you've talked about this before. with things like DeepSeek, Liberation Day, maybe reactions right after quarters. It's very easy where the bears, they come out of hibernation mode and try to yell fire in a crowded theater. So I think you have to look past it and
Yeah.
understand what the core fundamentals are.
Um, if the Fed becomes more influenced by the White House and if rate cut continues, what side effects will there be? Like, is there a price we might have to pay later on in the future?
Look, you could argue that imaginary 2%, which look, it never made sense to me, the imaginary 2% number. I think it's one where could you have inflation tick up? Yeah. But to me, I think that's sort of a side note. I think now is the time for the Fed to be aggressive cutting. And I think it sets up for just an easing cycle and something that's bullish for AI revolution.
Hmm. Now we've talked about the macro economy. Let's go into some specific enterprises. Let's talk about the king of AI, Nvidia. We saw this huge news. US conditionally approved the exports of Nvidia's H200 chips to China, but frankly, the signals are messy. Like some reports claim China doesn't even need these chips anymore, and yet news broke that tech giants like Alibaba explicitly asked for them to have the chips. And on top of that, there's this heavy burden of facing 25% cost on these sales. Thinking of all these noises and cost hurdles, do you still view the China re-entry as a genuine second win that pushes Nvidia further growth?
Look, Nvidia needs access to the China market. It's not just
Mm,
about 20 billion per year. It's about by Nvidia not having access to that market, whether it's H200s or other restricted chips, call a restricted Blackwell chip that maybe we see in part of the negotiations, it makes Huawei and domestic that much more powerful. Now, I can tell you from my conversation, all the work that we've done throughout Asia, like big China tech, there's one chip in the world they want. It's from the Godfather by Jensen NVIDIA. Would you
oh,
rather have a Michelin restaurant food or
hmm.
fast food? You'd rather
Uh,
so the point is it comes down to like Nvidia, even the older chips are
mhm.
years ahead of what China has. And I
Oh,
think Beijing recognizes the
yeah.
disparity, but both sides need Nvidia to sell into China because
Mm.
I think it's an arms race. And the US, that's the biggest chip in the table.
Why at this point did Trump allow this?
Because Trump recognizes that by not allowing Nvidia to sell into China, it gives China tech the ability to narrow the gap. And eventually China will, they'll get used to an environment without Nvidia chip. And that's something you don't want. You want Nvidia, you want AMD to sell into that market.
Mm.
So that's why I think there's this like push and pull between national security. But and I think Jensen himself will talk about it. Like, you want to sell into one of the biggest and best economies in the world in China.
But when I see the stocks moving, it's not moving as fast upward as expected with the news. How do you expect the further stock prices?
Well, I think but investors are cautious, optimistic, because
Hmm.
always afraid that China, Big Brother is going to come in. There's going to be more and more noise.
Hmm.
It's not going to play out. There's going to be a kind of like one step forward, two steps back. That's why the stocks have not maybe reacted to the level that you would have expected.
Oh. So would this be an opportunity to buy
Look,
Nvidia now?
we view it as a golden opportunity to own these names. I mean, our view, like the anytime you have sell-offs like this, they create the opportunity. And I think it's very easy sometimes to get caught up in some of the narratives.
Mhm.
But the reality is that this is very positive for US big tech. And for the first time in 30 years, the US is ahead of China when it comes to big tech.
But some are saying that do China really want this H200?
China big tech wants it. The
Yeah.
government might not want it, but
Mhm.
their biggest tech companies, their robotics companies, China tech world wants Nvidia chips. And at the end of the day,
Mhm.
they're going to get them one way or another. Look, and that's my view for what I view as a stock that's a 240, $250 stock in terms of where I think it should ultimately trade.
So right now, it feels like Nvidia is the only game in town. But then when I look aside, Google is running fast with its TPUs, and they have this massive data advantage. So the big question would be, when we sit down for an interview in 2026, will we still be talking about Nvidia as the number one player, or is there a chance that a player like Google could overtake them?
Yeah, there's a better chance of me playing in the NBA than Google taking over Nvidia. Look, we'll be sitting here in 2030
Yeah.
and Nvidia will be number one chip in the world. Now, will there be others that benefit? Huawei, AMD, big tech players, use it Google, Microsoft, Meta, build their own chips, of course. But Nvidia is years ahead of any other player. But it does speak to like why we're so bullish on Google, because that's just another opportunity from a TPU perspective
Hmm.
that adds to the story.
Some say that in order to make and expand this ecosystem, NVIDIA is deliberately allowing Google to come up and other companies to come up to make it much more bigger,
Hmm?
the ecosystem.
Demand and supply for NVIDIA chips are 12 to 1. So
Oh.
the point is, there's not enough NVIDIA chips
Hmm.
to supply the market. So it all speaks to why NVIDIA, like they congratulate Google on, their successes, whatever. You need, look, it's the Apple philosophy. Like when you go back to like iPhones, you needed others to make
Mm.
smartphones.
Yeah.
You can't just be the only one. I think that's exactly the right philosophy.
Mm. So they're opening the market to grow the pie.
Well, it's to grow the pie, but to make sure that it stays healthy and
Oh.
to make sure that the demand's there. And I think that's extremely important as it all plays out.
You know what? I actually have Google and I don't have Nvidia. People like me, then it seems like I need to sell off my Google and buy Nvidia with that money.
No, I wouldn't see.
Is
I would just because I'm a big believer in good. I think it's more, it speaks like my ETF. You need to have pieces. I think you need to own, but you own Nvidia on sell-offs. Days
oh,
where the stock. So I think that there's opportunities that continue to play out. And to me, the sell-offs create the golden buying opportunities.
yeah. Let's move on to Tesla. Recently, we've seen some high-profile moves on Wall Street. Even Kathy Wood, a longtime Tesla bull, has been trimming her position, citing valuation concerns. In contrast, you still seem to love Tesla. What do you see that they are missing out? Like, are you confident that Tesla is still the best in class, or do you admit that other sectors might offer a better short-term returns?
Look, short term, I mean, obviously we talk about hyperscalers and
Mm.
other tech players, but in terms of like Tesla, autonomous robotics, like that's it's gonna be the biggest chapter in its history from a growth perspective. So I think from like a physical AI perspective, Nvidia and Tesla, two best physical AI plays in the world. The reason I look at Tesla, I'm not saying quarter to quarter. maybe deliveries could slow, stock sells up. But when I look at robotaxi and I look at the innovation that's happening there, like in my view, like Tesla, base case 600, bull case $800 stock.
It's just the beginning then.
It's
It
just the
haven't even
beginning.
started yet.
It's just the
Yeah.
beginning, and I think you can't get caught up in sometimes the near-term dynamics could
Hmm.
skew you. I think it's like if I thought about over the next like 3 years
Yeah.
and I could own one company, like to me, Tesla's the one that I own over the next 3 years.
Oh, why is it 3 years?
Just take your spot, like two, three
Oh,
years, like long term.
I'm looking forward to the era of FSD and also robo.
Well, it's FSD, it's autonomous,
Mm.
it's what I kind of view as like what I view as sort of physical AI. So in other words, a year from now, we're not going to be talking just about LLM. We're going to be talking about what I view as really physical AI, which is going to play a huge role in this.
I was just looking, Elon also just tweeted on X that talking about the AI 5 that Tesla is nearing the tape out of its AI 5 inference chip.
Look, Tesla's going to play on that chip side as well.
Oh,
But it speaks to where there's all in big tech. They're going to build out their own infrastructures. But right now, there's only one phone call that you can make to get chips, and that
Nvidia.
guy's wearing a black leather jacket. He's the Godfather, and his name's Jensen.
I should have worn a black leather
I
jacket.
know. I thought you're gonna also maybe even wear a little more color today, but who knew, you know?
Uh, I know I was, but then I just took it off. Okay, so talking about Tesla, and it reminded of Elon Musk saying that he's going to IPO SpaceX.
Mhm.
Do you have any views on that?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I think Tesla will ultimately have owners, some sort of ownership of SpaceX,
Oh,
just like just like they'll have some sort of ownership of XAI.
yeah.
Because my view is like Tesla eventually becomes almost like a holding structure for all Musk's initiatives. You know, and that's also why it was so important that like Musk got the pay package
Hmm.
because of what this means for, you need a wartime CEO. You need Musk laser focused. And I think SpaceX is just part of the broader ecosystem
Oh.
that Musk has created.
When it actually IPOs, will you buy SpaceX? Are you on the buy side as well?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, to me, SpaceX, Anthropic, XAI, OpenAI.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not saying what those stocks are going to do in the next 3, 6 months, like once they go public, but I don't see as a disruptive technology investor, fourth industrial revolution, how you cannot own those names.
So up to now, we've talked about SpaceX going public, and we have to talk about Oracle as well. You mentioned it at the beginning of the interview, and the market viewed this earning report as a key indicator for the AI boom. But the result was shocking. Shares tanked 10% right after the bell. Then how should we interpret this? Is this like a warning sign for the entire AI industry, or is this just a Oracle specific issue that we
See,
don't
I
have?
have I have a totally different view. Like my view is like the stock should be up, not down. Because look, RPO
Hmm.
backlog from an AI perspective, I kind of view that as the best barometer. That
Hmm.
was 10% above the street. You look at the amount of RPO that they've added. I mean, obviously it was over 300 billion last quarter to open. They had 69 billion.
Yeah.
2 quarters ago they added 8 billion, 33, 2 billion if you go back 4 quarters ago. You can't look at this stock in terms of what growth is over the next 1, 2 quarters. I mean, to give you an example, like the next 3 years, growth's going to go from like 17%
Hmm.
revenue growth to 33% to 45% as they convert backlog. That's the best way to think about the stock, in my opinion.
I think the market was worrying about the depth, and even though they are earning a lot of money, they're also spending a lot of money. And the high debt levels triggered the sell-off. Is the debt issue okay?
But see, I view it as like they're gonna need probably a lot less than 100 billion of debt,
Hmm.
and relative to the overall market opportunity, it's small. Like,
Oh.
so what they're gonna need to service the capex,
Mhm.
that's a high class problem. Like, I'm not concerned about what that means in terms of OpenAI as a customer, the debt load. You're talking about fourth industrial revolution. Like, Oracle
Mhm.
has the backlog, has the demand, and they're going to do what they need to do to fill it.
So the stock was weighed down by the debt, but we don't really have to worry about that.
Look, I'm not saying it's not something that you have to focus on it,
Hmm.
but I think it's very easy in these markets to get caught up in what I kind of view as like near-term issues
Oh.
that skew the longer term perspective. I mean, to me, that's really the focus.
Okay, so today we've covered an incredible amount of ground with Den Ives, and as we approach to the end of the year and looking forward to next year, do you have any special messages for investors?
Look, it's 10:30 p.m. in this AI party.
Mm.
Party started 9 p.m. It goes to 4 a.m. But as I me and you've talked about, there's gonna be glass on the dance floor, DJ stops playing music, cops come to the party, people are gonna think parties, ending. Bears will watch the party through the windows from the outside.
Mm.
You're gonna have a bull market in 2026 that continues with the AI revolution trade spreading.
Mhm.
These white knuckle moments, we'll have more of them, but they create the opportunities to own the winners. But you need strong hands, and you cannot get caught up in maybe some of the near-term bearish market narratives that will take hold from time to time.
Okay, Dan, thank you once
No,
again.
thanks for it's always so fun, being with you on 3 Pro and talking to everyone, and look forward to just an exciting 2026.